Maybe we need to mute the TVs, maybe not. All right. Good evening. Welcome to the planning board meeting for June 17th, 2026. I am co-chair Orion Breen of Elmwood Road. If the folks on the dais here want to introduce themselves for the folks in the audience and those watching the recording later.
Brian Stornelli.
Paul Fairman.
Natasha Gifford.
Tim Giddens, Code Enforcement.
Marcia Bowen, I'm the secretary. Mercedes Poor, Lawrence Road.
Bradford Holden, Hudson Road.
Great. We will have a secretary report, approval of minutes. Oh, okay. I guess we will continue on with the site walk. And we'll discuss the Freeport Diesel and Marine. Tim, do you want to?
I think first we need, Natasha has written up a memo for us on this. Let Natasha speak to that.
Sounds good.
And we need to have a discussion on how to move forward.
Thank you, Natasha Gifford, North Star Planning. So at the time that the memo was sent out, the updated site plan with the dimensions labeled had not been received by the office. So the memo doesn't offer motions or suggestions for findings because that was not on hand at the time. I would say that it was a successful site walk and that there's members of the public in attendance and the applicant team and a quorum of the planning board. I would caution that we would just want to make sure that a finalized location for the outside storage area is resolved before there is a vote for the item. Certainly conditions could be crafted, but I would be hesitant just in the sense that we kind of had two options at the site walk, and I would want to make sure that the board is fully satisfied and any questions that they have been addressed, and that the outcome would be a finalized certain location for the storage, because I think that was one of the biggest concerns that came up from the last meeting, which I was not able to attend. And then I also would just remind the board that because this application, it's detailed in the top of the memo, but because this application is essentially, it's an amended site plan, but we are also looking back to history at the original ZBA approval of the site. And so the board would also want to review and make any adjustments to the conditions that were attached to that previous approval, just because they do interplay with this project. So that would be the end of just some of my guidance. Thank you.
So I think, as Natasha said, we had a successful site walk. I think everybody there didn't have any problems with what the applicants were proposing, but we do need to decide on the location for the storage area, the outside storage, whether are we going to allow it? Where's it going to be? Are there anything else we need to think about that goes along with that? So I think a board discussion on that is warranted.
Yeah, Tim and Natasha, I think especially, and it was my understanding, especially as we're thinking about that storage area, it seems like there's an interplay with the location of those doors and then the fire chiefs, just making sure we're balancing all of that as well. Because I know as we came around the east side, we're like, okay, it's probably not going to be here, but there's a chance it could be here if he didn't like the storage and then coming into those bays. So I think there's a couple of things that we just want to make sure that are resolved and then actually on the site plan right before we actually do anything.
That would be my suggestion.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that from the site walk, it seemed like the location at the back was preferable to the side, and one of the concerns the applicant had made of not originally proposing that spot at that distance from the opening was a concern over vegetation. And the board, when they looked at the site, thought there would be minimal vegetation disturbance if they wanted to place it in the back there, different than what they had presented to the fire chief. And so I'm inclined on the question of, do we allow storage at all? I'm inclined to say yes, and that that they put into their application that preferred site at the rear of the building, and so that we can get feedback from folks like the fire chief to see if that is a reasonable location and that distance from the doors is acceptable to the fire chief.
So I'm reading the letter from the fire chief, who says the outside storage is acceptable on the west side as long as no entry or overhead doors are blocked. Storage at the rear of the building should be avoided as there's little room once large overhead door and entry door are taken into consideration. So amending the location further back, I think would address his concerns. But I would like to see it on the plan. And I noticed the plan had like little dots, but there wasn't an arrow that said storage area. So just having a label, I think, would be helpful. And I guess I should add, since this is a public hearing, we want to make sure that the public has.
Yeah. Did the applicant or public have any questions or concerns that they didn't get to say on the site walk? All right. Does the applicant feel like we gave enough directions that we would like to see the site plan with the thing marked, or anything else? Nobody in public raised their hand, so.
So there's no public comment. I think we close the public hearing.
I think,
that
we
right?
can- yeah, okay, sure.
All right, we'll close the public hearing. What's next on the agenda?
So I think we need to discuss this project further.
Yep.
To, say in public and for the record, exactly what we decided on or what has been decided on. So they have guidance and we have it
Yep.
in the record as well.
I think we also need to have the wording of the fourth condition finalized. I think we should probably vote on that. Is that correct? On the fourth condition?
What, did people have proposed language for the fourth condition?
Yeah.
So I would suggest that when you make a formal motion it sounds like at a future date of a public hearing, that you finalize kind of all of the details at that time, and at that time, suggest a finalized condition. And just so I understand, we're speaking to the 1989 special exception conditions, and then the idea of modifying the fourth one. Yeah, I think like Tim said, I think it would be a great idea to have some discussion about that tonight. And that only sets up the applicant for success, because then they're hearing kind of what the board is considering. That would be my suggestion to talk about that further.
So I wrote down some measurements from the site walk. And we can go over them, I guess. Again, this is to I guess the southern side of the building is where we're looking, the very back. What I measured, I have to look. So I measured 55 feet from the side of the building in the back of the building, to the edge of the storage area. And it starts 20 feet back from the corner of the building in a westerly direction. And it continues on 101 feet to the tree line in the west, to the west. And then back 36 feet from there. Anybody question that or think?
Is that the size that the applicant wants the storage to be?
The size that we want it to be there, I would say that the 101 feet is fine. I'd prefer to have closer to 40 feet in depth, but it's really going to depend on what's safe with the embankment. Back there is really going to determine how far back we can go. Because we'd like to be able to have area around a 36-foot boat, essentially. So 36 feet is fine, is about the size of the boat that we'd like to store. But we need a little bit of, I guess, leeway around it. But it's really going to be determined by the ground back there.
Yeah, so I mean, my take is at the back of the building, have a storage there is acceptable to me as long as it meets the concerns for the fire chief and for folks like the DEP for evaluating potential runoff and things like that.
If there were concerns with the DEP or something like that, in order to facilitate storage in the future, would we just have to come back here and look at other sites on the property and kind of go through it again and just talk about that? Okay, that's,
I'm not sure there's a DEP trigger unless you're affecting wetlands.
I'm not sure the DEP is triggered there either. I didn't walk to the edge of the bank and look down, but I will just from
right.
being there, before, I think it's quite a ways to the brook that is back there. So I don't think the DEP will be involved in this. It's just, I think what will dictate it is how steep that bank is back there and how close we can get to it with the fill not cascading over.
Right. So, and I don't want to be right on the bank. We're not looking to have a boat fall because it's eroding or anything, so.
So to me, the question is, we're dealing with a certain amount of uncertainty because you're not sure exactly how you would configure that.
Yeah.
And yet we want something on a plan. So how do we
How do we?
figure that out?
On the plan, does it show, I think it shows a building envelope on the original plan on where you can build. Is that an acceptable, if we block off the, on the sides and then just say within the building envelope? I don't know where that goes to without looking at it in front of me. So that was our initial thoughts of places that we thought storage might be appropriate.
That is the plan that they are using for a sketch plan for this. It's the same as this plan. Yes, it does. So the building envelope just basically references top of bank.
Okay. So that's kind of what we're looking at. We don't have an exact measurement there, but if we can stay within the building envelope, but on the south side of the building, I think that would be fine. And then we just kind of fine tune that with how how the ground is back there but I think that seems appropriate.
Yep.
I'll say at our last meeting, I think when we were talking about these four original like conditions that were on the original 1989 thing, one of the things was the vegetative cover. And I think we were talking about that west side of the building, not touching it. But I think especially now that we're talking about behind the building, it almost seems like we're honoring that a little bit more in that we're,
Sure.
yeah, you know,
Yeah,
we were
just
talking
the east
about,
and the west sides.
right,
What
where
we're
you
looking at.
really are gonna see in, and especially you may see boats, but if we're really saying, okay, we're gonna push all of that back behind the building.
Right.
As long as I think we're also working with the fire chief, because I think we had talked about a dumpster or using.
Yes.
So yeah, that's gonna cut into some of our, whatever we have back there. So I think just getting this all here so we can see it and Chief Peters can see it, would be great.
That, I guess, so for our sake, when we're revise the plan, we'll go the 101 feet behind the building and just to the edge of the envelope or edge of the bank, not to be concerned with the vegetative cover because that's not, but not that we're gonna clear cut back there, but just in the, where we're storing there. That makes, so that way we can put something on paper to have for you guys.
Yeah, I think the only thing I'd remind everybody of is the corridor there for the trail. So I
Yes.
think too, yeah, just as long as we're respecting that.
Yep.
But I think our major concerns on that particular provision were on the east and the west side.
The trail is, I think we'll have to operate under normal setbacks because that's considered a road. So we'll have to operate on normal setbacks on that side.
There it would be
Okay,
on the dotted line.
okay.
Say vessel storage.
Vessel
Yep.
storage area.
So when do we need this back by? So we can do this in the next meeting? 2 weeks?
Oh, yeah. No problem. For July. Okay.
Is it reasonable to ask that Chief Peters also see that as you're working
Yeah,
on that?
I
Okay,
would like to, so we don't have to
do it
do it
again. Yeah.
That'd be.
That'd be wonderful.
So I'd be happy to meet with you next week at any time to help you lay this out.
Okay. We'll have you arrange it with fire chief as well so that we can all do it together. All right. That works.
So the fire chief did bring up a couple other things in his memo that are beyond, the vessel storage area. He would like to see a Knox box in place for the fire department to access, and also to see a monitored fire alarm system for this building. So this is beyond what we were discussing about the amending the conditions. So I don't know how we feel about that.
And I actually haven't seen this memo, so, yeah. But I think that's a good idea to think about how it interplays with the, conditions.
The Knox box, that's that's easy. The monitored fire alarm system, is that, wouldn't that be more of a codes thing? Is that in the fire code currently?
I think it would be.
Okay.
It would be an ordinance for thing, and this is more of a request from the fire chief.
Right.
It's beyond what we require.
Okay.
Do we-
Would that need to be on the plan or just,
I think if the board wanted to ask for it, it would need to be on somewhere on our decision.
What is the cost impact for something like that? Do we know?
I do not know. Off the top of my head, I don't dare say.
do you have a monitored fire system at your current facility?
No.
But you have some kind of fire system?
We have fire extinguishers, pretty much whatever our insurance requires, is what we have at our current location.
I don't know.
I know new build stuff is different and might require different, fire suppression, but I don't know on existing what would be, it would have to change or.
My feeling is that if it's not required in the ordinance right now, I don't think that we can require that of them at this time.
I don't know if we can't, but I'm hesitant to do it without, if it's not required, and we also don't know what the cost impact is and how onerous it is, so. At this time, I'm not inclined to require additional things.
Would that be something that could be determined or help be determined by the fire chief and there, or they, what they're looking for?
Something we can discuss on when we,
Discuss it, but I'd like you to go away tonight with everything that you need.
yeah,
I think. Again, I say, if it's not in the ordinance right now, I don't think we can require it.
Yeah.
His language is, it would also be desirable.
Yeah.
And I would also like to see monitored fire system, but I agree, it's not in the ordinance.
I'm not necessarily opposed to it. It's just, I don't know anything about it either and cost and all that stuff. But the Knox box will certainly do. I think that's something that's valuable to have there.
When you have a monitored system, there's a monthly fee on
Right.
whether you have cellular or.
Right.
And I don't know what that.
I don't either.
Any thoughts on that? Further thoughts?
Like I said, I'm inclined not to require it, but I think it's worth, if the applicant's willing, when they sit down with the fire chief to get more details to see how onerous it would be on a voluntary level.
And if it's something the fire chief would like to bring up in ordinance review discussion, then we can
Yep.
take it up then.
Sure.
I'm in agreement.
Is there anything else that we need to give them? No.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, we'll touch base on a time frame for next week and we will have a updated site plan. Yeah, I think it sounds great. All right, thank you. Thank you guys for your time today.
All right. So we have the back to secretary's report and meeting minutes. Anybody have questions, comments, edits for the meeting minutes? A motion to approve the meeting minutes? Any second?
Second that.
All those in favor? Unanimous. On to next order of business, Stetson Farm preliminary plan. Is that something not uploaded to the website? Yeah. See. I don't know what can be unplugged from this that would not disrupt the recording or the screens. What? Place to plug this in. That's not, that's, yeah, that's, oh, yeah, okay.
Mouse.
That's fine. We don't need a mouse.
Is this your presentation, Peter?
Yes.
So we want to introduce Peter and have him walk through this?
come up?
Yep. Or unless you want me to run your slideshow,
That's a fun time.
which one do you want me to?
The one that says presentation. Yep, that's the one.
Alright. Oh, no worries.
Okay, good evening. My name's Peter Beagle. I'm with Land Design Solutions. I'm a landscape architect site planner, and I am here tonight with Jim Cram, the owner and applicant of the Jordan or the Stetson Farm Conservation Subdivision. I'm thinking I will kind of not go back through much history just because we've been here so often and you've got full agenda, but I think just this first slide just gives a little idea of where the parcel is. We have frontage along the Brown Road, and we have frontage around the Poland Range Road. Next, I'm thinking I can page down for a slide. Is that?
Yeah, let's see. Here. There you go.
Okay, thank you. Same thing here. We've got the tax map. We show the adjacent properties, the 264 Brown Road parcel, 240 Brown Road parcel, 220 Brown Road parcel. We show the Poland Range Road along the south side, and we have East Branch Chandler Brook along the east side. We show Libby Road. I don't know if you can see. Can you see my mouse on moving around on that screen at all? Okay, so we've got Libby Road coming down through here. We've got Hollowell Road over here on the west side. Yeah. Over here. Oh. Okay, there we go. So when we were here last meeting, we were here and we presented net residential density map, and we presented two options. And we talked about option B was the option that you see up on the screen here, and option B was the one that received a favorable review of the 9 lots off a little longer than allowed subdivision, private subdivision road off the Poland Range Road, and a large 20-acre lot on the Poland Range Road. And we talked about doing something a little different with the two properties owned by Jim over on the Brown Road, the 220 and 240 properties. So we left the meeting and we had talked about taking those two parcels right out of the picture so that we just had the one project parcel. We weren't incorporating his other properties. And so we came back, and what you had in your packets was this revised net residential density map showing just the lots over on the Poland Range Road. The other two parcels are not part of this project. It gave us a project parcel of 124.5 acres. The net residential density map showed 11 lots allowed. What we submitted this time around, this is one of the subdivision plans that was in your package, showed 9 single-family lots on a 1,800 and something foot road to 1,200, all depending on where you start that road from, whether it's the property line or the center line of the Poland Range Road. So the length of that, so we can nail that down with you folks about exactly where you start the measurement. But anyway, we've got the private subdivision road with 9 single-family lots, and we have the 20-acre lot. The 20-acre lot we talked about would not be allowed to be farther subdivided, so that would be a large lot for somebody who wants a lot of land for their own hobbies or whatever they do. And that leaves us with 92 acres or 74% open space. So this is a little blow up of the 9 lots. And I'm putting this up there. It shows the 9 lots. It shows the septic system, suitable soils, test pits. It shows a 100-foot well exclusion zone around those. Here we have the site plan that was presented. So this, I think the big thing about this plan is showing how houses could be placed on those lots, taking advantage of the different vistas and twists and kind of turns of, you know, potential good building sites. And that's again showing the 9 single-family lots, and we really have no idea about the 20-acre lot, so we're just kind of leaving that as it is. The 20-acre lot would require a waiver, as we talked about last time, for a direct connection, or we would like to have the direct connection to the Poland Range Road. There would be a way, I guess you could put a driveway or something over to the private subdivision road, but I think we talked about last time, that's a lot of building and a lot of disruption and disturbance when, for a 20-acre lot, it seemed like folks were in favor of allowing that connection to the Poland Range Road. This is the engineered kind of plan and profile of the proposed private subdivision road. The road is designed to meet the minor dead-end street standards shown in Appendix A of the ordinance. It's got the 20-foot travel ways, a 4-foot shoulder on either side, 60-foot right-of-way. So it meets all the various radii and tangent geometry. So it's a proposed private road, would be owned and maintained by the HOA. The other things shown on this right here where my little cursor is the a pull-off and a cistern. My understanding from reading through the ordinance was we needed 12,000 gallons for the first 5 lots and 2,000 gallons after that. So that's a 22,000 gallon cistern shown there. And that the homeowners association or the developers responsible for installing that, the homeowners association would be maintaining that for the first year, and then it would be turned over to the town. We show our stormwater management plan that was submitted shows stormwater being conveyed in vegetated swales, culverts, and outletted in 2 level spreaders back into the forested area. We have 1 level spreader right here, another level spreader right here to accommodate the swales and convey the water where we need it to go. We've got this red line around the cul-de-sac is a 10-foot wide grading and drainage easement, just allows us to get the swales in there. Those would be grass swales, so with a gentle enough slope that it would be maintainable. We are not proposing any street lighting. This development would have underground power and cable. That would really be the only utilities. You'd have your own private well and your own septic system. Here we have a detail sheet, and this shows the proposed road section of the 20-foot travel way. One of the things that we're proposing is the 4-foot shoulders. We're proposing a grass shoulder. So we'd have 3.5 inches of loam with grass on top of the gravel buildup, so that if you pulled over there, you're not going to sink out of sight. You would have your good gravel base, but it's a way for us to kind of soften and reduce the impact of gravel shoulders. This is a detail of the 22,000 gallon cistern. It's a big thing. It's 83.5 feet long, but we do have room to accommodate that on the site with the pull off. So we think that fits in there quite nicely. For these plans, and I'm going to go back to, just let me get back to the subdivision plan while I kind of talk through here. So the things that went into this plan where we had the suitable soils test pitting done out there. We had Mark Sensei Geologic. He did a nitrate study. He did a hydrogeologic study, suitable soils tests. Longview Partners did a Class A high-intensity soil survey on the developable portions. We had the traffic impact assessment done, and we had the stormwater management plan done. So those things all took place and went into these final plans. The wells in the hydrogeologic section report, you'll see that one of the calculations done was the amount of rainwater that falls on the site to recharge the groundwater and the amount of water drawn out. And so for those 10 lots, the calculation said 3,600 gallons of water per day would be pulled out, and you'd have an average recharge of 7,500 gallons per day. So recharge should be there to support these lots. We also looked at a well study. The ordinance talks about doing a test well. We were hoping not to do a test well, that we could substitute the data from these 35 wells that are in closest to that site, including a well that Jim had drilled on the 220 Brown Road property. But in the hydrogeologic report is the statistics from that study, and I found that a little bit kind of interesting. It did show that there's a, it's a decently fractured bedrock aquifer. Said wells ranged, the 35 wells that Mark Sensei looked at, the wells ranged from 130 to 725 feet deep. The average depth was 336 feet. The median depth is 322 feet. And the water well yield showed a range of 0.5 to 75 gallons per minute. The average well yield was 13.9 gallons per minute. And the median yield was 6 gallons per minute. So that suggested to us that we should have decent water on that site for those lots. Stormwater management. The stormwater management analysis was done for the 10 and 50-year storms as required by the ordinance. Looked at conveying the water, getting it back to the maintaining the patterns of runoff that exist. And we're able to do that through the vegetated ditches, culverts, swales, and then dispersing the water back into the wooded areas through those two level spreaders. A stormwater management and inspection section was included in the stormwater report, and that section would be included in the homeowners association documents so that they would know to keep the swales maintained so water keeps flowing, keep the woody vegetation from growing in the level spreaders, and just what needs to happen to keep those working as they should be. The open space, as I said, we have 74% or 92.5 acres. There's a letter in the application from the Royal River Conservation Trust saying that they are interested and they feel they're a good fit for the land and have the resources and knowledge for managing the public access vegetation and keeping that land in good shape for the future. Traffic was another big thing. We've spent a lot of time on traffic and road conditions. The traffic engineer, Diane Morabito, with Sewell Engineering, was retained and did an assessment that was included in the application. The summary of that was, its subdivision is expected to generate 7 to 10 one-way trips during the peak hours. There were no crash patterns or deficiencies that could be identified. The site distance met the town and DOT requirements, and she also did a field review. And the field review looked at roadway geometrics from the Hollowell Road to the Freeport line. And that their takeaway was that we had compacted gravel 22 to 24 feet wide with an additional 1 to 3 inch shoulder. They did not note no safety deficiencies such as narrow portions inadequate for two-way traffic were noted. So, the traffic assessment didn't pick up on any deficiencies out there. Homeowners Association, we submitted draft homeowners documents. The homeowners would maintain the stormwater stuff, the cistern for a year, the road. So that's all taken care of by homeowners association, and those documents were included in the submission. We had talked about repair of the Poland Range Road from our construction. Should there be any damage, we definitely would want to take care of whatever problems we created. The road commissioner came up with a bond amount of $205,000, which we're glad to work with and post. We're thinking through, we move forward tonight that we'd work with Tim and the road commissioner coming up with just how that would all work. But we're on board with that. The applicant also provided a letter from a financial institution stating that he has the financial capacity for the project to take this on. There are 3 waiver requests that we talked about. And I guess there would be 4 if we needed a waiver request for a test well on the site. But our first waiver was for the private road length. And I've used in the waiver request section 16 of the application. The proposed road is approximately 1,185 feet. And again, that all depends kind of where you measure that. You're measuring it at the property line, you're measuring it at the middle of the Poland Range Road. So wherever the official start of that stationing is, we're over the 1,000 feet. And so we would be looking for a waiver for that. We'd be requesting a waiver for lot 10, the 20-acre lot, to have a driveway connection directly to the Poland Range Road. Again, we're looking for that lot to be, a single family lot, and we'll be restricting that lot for no further subdivision. It cannot be subdivided farther in the future. And requesting a waiver for the grassed shoulders of the road to be grass, not gravel. And then the test well, if that's, I'm not quite sure of the process of what we need a waiver for or what's just an okay, or so I guess I'm looking for a little feedback from you folks on that. But I think that's our preliminary plan in summary. I'm glad to answer any questions, take any comments that folks have. Take any questions or comments?
We're starting with the board first. You going? I've read through this thoroughly, and I commend you for excellent job. And I know this has to go through the site location process, so a lot of the material in here, like the stormwater management, I don't have the technical expertise, but knowing that it's going to the DEP is very reassuring to me, because it looked good to me, and if they pass it, I think that's excellent. I had a couple questions about the traffic analysis, just to understand, and I know Diane Morabito is an excellent engineer, so I don't have any qualms about her assessment, but I'm hoping you could answer a couple questions.
Okay.
And this is in the traffic analysis, and on page 2, we're talking about the trip generation. And I think because of all the concern about the road and the amount of traffic involved, I wanted to really understand this. And I'm looking at it, says there's 92 weekday trips, which, but in adding up some of these individual peak hours, it's much less, it's like 34. So I don't know if the 92 is additional to the peak hour or how that works.
The 92 would be in a 24-hour period. You have 10 homes, and they're saying everybody's going to leave their home and come back. They're going to be 92. So you would say maybe 10 trips per day for each house. We've got 9 houses in there. You leave your house 5 times and you come back 5 times for a total of 10 trips for each one of those 9 homes. So that gives you the 90. The peak hour is just, we have an AM peak hour. So we're the generator. Our subdivision, those nine homes they're generating the trips. So if you move down from adjacent, look at the generator. So the generator peak hour in the AM in the morning
Hmm.
is you have 2 cars entering
Hmm.
and you have 6 cars exiting for a total of 8.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yep, so we have the AM peak hour, the PM peak hour, and then the 92 that we talked about was the weekday. That's all the traffic from that site.
Because when I look at the page before and they talk about the average daily traffic, it's 130 to 140. I guess it depends on which way they're going. So if I look at that number, it's almost doubling the traffic. But then when I look at the peak hour entrances and exits, that seems, not a very significant amount of traffic
Yeah,
added. So I was just trying to understand that the 92 is just assuming that each house does 10 trips a day.
yeah, that you leave your, right.
Which to me seems a lot of, like the normal household, my normal household wouldn't be making 10 trips a day.
Yes, well, I mean, these all come from the Institute of Transportation Engineering.
Right.
So it's it's numbers that they've come up with. So whether that is exactly, your local situation.
So I understand that. That's very helpful. And then the other question I had, on the next page, I understand that the critical CRF are bolded when they're over 1 because that's the threshold. But the intersection of Brown Road under Durham Road locations is 1.69, but it wasn't bolded. And I didn't know if that was a mistake or if there's some other aspect to that particular CRF.
Yeah, intersection of Durham Road, intersection with Brown Road, 4 crashes.
And that's the number that's in the supporting materials. So I thought it was a little strange.
Yeah, I did not pick up on that. I can find out what that is. I mean, we've got Durham Road between Poland Road and Bragdon Road. Poland Road and Bragdon Road. So, yep, I will have to look into that because the other high crash areas seem to be, deer hits and other
Yeah,
things.
yeah, they weren't, I can't remember her exact terminology, but nothing that would be fixable in terms of,
Yep. So this is intersection of Durham Road and Brown Road. Says there were four crashes. Okay, I will,
just more of a matter, if it's a mistake, then we would want the right
yep.
number in here. I just made a couple other notes. Maybe Tim, you could help me. I think a cul-de-sac has to be approved by the road commissioner, is that?
There are standards that are written in the ordinance.
That's what's in the conservation ordinance, so I just made a note of that. And I think you were saying that the 20-acre lot is, it's not to be subdivided, and is that on the plan? Did I see it on the plan?
Yes, I did put that on one of the plans. It would be, we would end up putting it on the subdivision plan.
Okay.
So it would be on the recorded plan.
Right. And another note I have, just going through the ordinance, that the town attorney is supposed to review the HOA agreement. So that, I don't think that affects things we're doing tonight, but I just wanted to make notes as I was going through it.
Yep.
And I know that we have a 45, supposedly have a 45-day window after we agree it's complete, but our next meeting is
We wouldn't be ready till August.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Natasha, maybe you can speak to that.
I did notice that also just now that the ordinance requires that a public hearing also occur in tandem with the decision for a preliminary plan, but then also the 45, in that same paragraph earlier, it says the 45 days. So there does seem to be a conflict there. And I know this is the first application that the town has that's going through this updated ordinance. So I also just noticed that conflict. One, this isn't a public hearing in terms of if it was ready for making motion. And then two, the 45-minute days seems quite burdensome considering that the town operates on one meeting per month.
I'm not sure it's written into the conservation subdivision ordinance, but I know there is language in here that said if both parties agree to an extension, then it can happen. So,
Yeah, we'd like to agree to an extension. I think just getting, the attorney to fine tune the HOA docs, and I mean, there's just some stuff that takes a little bit of time that's out of our hands.
So this is a question for the board tonight. Do we vote on waivers? Do we declare it complete? What are we trying to accomplish tonight? Or what can we accomplish tonight?
Are you asking me? Okay. I do think we should talk about, so I just pulled up the ordinance. We're looking at the kind of paragraph in question is section 906, A2, and that's where it first speaks about 45 days, but then the final sentence in the paragraph is prior to preliminary approval, the planning board shall hold a public hearing. So, of course, this wasn't noticed as a public hearing, and we want to follow that protocol. I would agree about the extension of the 45 days, as Tim suggested, but it wouldn't seem appropriate to make any motions until we have that preliminary approval moment at a public hearing. I think that the board has kind of already at length discussed those three waivers that are that Peter summarized and that are detailed in the application. It might be helpful to talk about that fourth item that was brought up this evening, but I would suggest that everything happen together in terms of making motions and making approvals at the same time, which according to the ordinance should be at a public hearing forum. I'll take a moment to look through the ordinance about that. Because part of the procedures lays out that when the approval is given, it is supplied with or without modification or disapproval. There's kind of three routes to go. And so when you're making that motion, you would also be kind of recognizing the 3 or 4 waiver requests at that time.
So 6.2, at the end, the last sentence, prior to preliminary approval, the planning board shall hold a public hearing. So I think that answers that.
Were we supposed to have labeled this a public hearing and we failed to do so? Or?
I don't believe there was anticipation that everything would go through to an approval tonight. I don't know if, I think there's still a lot to discuss. Peter has brought up some questions that need to be answered. And if we want any changes to the plans, then we'll have to send them back tonight for those changes. We wouldn't be ready for a public hearing until we are ready to approve the plan.
Well, I'm saying, in the future, you had some plan that was relatively simple, we wouldn't, and we were like, oh, actually, we don't have any changes. We couldn't have voted on it until, so.
The way the ordinance is written, it requires at least 2 meetings for the preliminary plan to be
Yeah.
approved, is what I.
We're not voting on anything tonight, we're just asking questions and asking for additional materials. We think we need it in order to vote for the next meeting, which would be a public hearing.
So for the next meeting, would we just submit anything that had changed? Or would we submit this whole thing again? Again, I missed that myself, so I was thinking that we were having a vote on approval or public hearing or whatever. I was not, I didn't realize that it was a two meeting thing, but anyway, yeah, so I guess for the next, we'll talk about whatever changes there are, and then would we be submitting just those changed items, or would we be submitting a whole new document?
I think the board should go through it tonight and agree on the things that they want to move forward with, and then also have a discussion on the things they would like to see changed.
Great.
And then give you a list of that, and then when you come back, you can go over what has changed.
Okay.
That would be my preference.
I think we should just see what needs, if anything, needs to be changed. And then at the end of the meeting, we can decide the time frame. Because if something, you may need a certain amount of time if anything needs to be changed. But I would also vote for amendments rather than reproducing this entire application.
Okay.
I'm just one person though.
There's not a ton of additional changes. Would you want to come back in July?
Yeah, I was thinking, when I said August, I was thinking we'd be coming back for a final review in August. So if there are just a few revisions, then certainly could come back sooner than that to take care of those.
So Natasha, is there anything that you found to be incomplete? I mean, from the memo, it looks like almost everything is complete based on your review.
Thank you. Yes, I think the only thing that the board would want to discuss this evening is the question that you raised, Peter, about that test pit, test well, and whether that needs to come in as a formal waiver request or kind of how that will function. But yes, I agree. I found the application to be complete.
I think there are a couple more things that need to be discussed in 9063. And it lists out what we were supposed to be asking for. One of them, the number 3, is the amount of the bond that we may require. So that needs to be a discussion.
Do you mean the bond for the road, or is there another bond that you're referencing?
It says all bonds.
All bonds.
So I'm assuming road bond and then performance guarantee. Sorry. And also we're talking about putting money into escrow or someplace. So our bond for the road repair for the town road, if there's any damage that is done.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what we have to discuss, if that's okay with the board.
The comment is that the staff suggests that the bond for the road thing has been mitigated by the performance bond, right? Or
I can clarify. So towards the end of the memo, I spoke to some of the items that had been discussed at length at prior hearings, and I think because we did get the confirmation from the road commissioner on what that total should be for the bond, specifically for the road, that is satisfactory. Which would be in addition to any sort of performance guarantee bond or subsequent to.
What is the guaranteed bond stuff covering?
We were assuming it was covering the road infrastructure. So that's why we, in our the financial capacity section, we said we estimated the road infrastructure at $530,000, and we provided Jim's financial capacity letter to cover that amount.
My feeling is if the road commissioner,
Yeah.
the road commissioner made the recommendation, then I would trust that number. I don't have any other basis to judge it by.
The other thing that I would like to see worked out is just how are we going to judge that condition? What I would recommend is that we have the applicant hire an outside contractor to establish a road condition that we can all agree on. And then at the end of the project, have that same outside contractor come and do an assessment.
Yeah, although I think we're going to need to monitor that a little bit. I mean, if we had a, I don't know, 2-month long construction period, to make sure that it's not, open season on the Poland Range Road at Jim Cram's expense. I mean, you don't know who else may be trucking and driving down the road. So trying to make sure that we're only covering, any damage or repair that's needed from our activities, I guess, would be something that maybe we should talk with the road commissioner about what might be a reasonable way to kind of watch that.
Be honest with you, I don't like this form, how we're doing this. There's going to have to be work done on the road as construction has happened to keep the road in good condition for the residents that already live there. So
Yeah.
there's going to be work going on as this is happening. So I think having an outside contractor take a look at this to make sure that there's not, catastrophic damage to some areas, I think is what we're going to be looking to have covered.
Okay. So should we meet with the road commissioner and kind of talk that out about what his thoughts are on?
I'm looking at our head selectman for guidance on this.
Yeah, that's a range of mainly with.
Let's arrange, John Morris, Chairperson of Select Board, let's arrange a meeting with the main DOT and the road commissioner. They'll do a drive-by, assess the road before the project, then they'll come back and do the drive. I've already talked to the DOT, and they said that's what they could, the DOT would offer to do that. So.
The previous road commissioner contacted the DOT and they said they don't have any programs for that.
That's why we have a new road commissioner.
Okay.
So let's arrange a meeting. Tim will arrange the time. I'll show up with the road commissioner and hopefully someone from DOT. We'll just figure out a plan to
Okay.
have an initial assessment and then a final assessment. That sound fair, Tim? Peter?
Yeah, I guess it's just, I guess we're just trying to make sure of, like I said, from,
Correction.
right, and, yeah, and who, yeah,
We'll figure out something.
okay,
Okay?
yeah, thank you.
So we're saying that's bond one, but we're also talking about a second performance guarantee of the road that they're building inside the subdivision, right? And that's the 530.
Correct.
Yeah, so we need another bond in that range.
Yeah.
But were you suggesting for that we should have an outside assessment, or you were talking about the actual road, Poland Range Road itself?
Going by history of what has happened before, we have had, for road construction, we have had outside, engineers take a look at it and make sure it was, up to specs, before we, approved it or accepted it. So there, I think we need to look at stuff like that as well. Are we going to require that?
So we've required that in previous subdivisions when they constructed a road. Okay.
Problem is that previous subdivisions have not been on dirt roads. Assessment fully. There's no way to contract a crook to come in and say.
No, we're talking about the private road, John.
So would that just be a condition if we do approve it? I guess,
I
where
think
would
that
we?
would be a condition of approval if going forward, at the end, before we accept the road as complete, we require a third-party test of materials and compaction.
Their assessment of
Right.
costs to make sure we're dialed in for the bond.
I'm sorry, is it this be assessing the plans or assessing the actual construction after?
The construction after.
Okay, thanks.
I like the idea of an outside evaluation of an actual road in a subdivision, especially because the applicant is asking for a waiver on that gravel edge, and the fact that we are going a little bit deeper into this property. So I think I would not want to put more burdens on our own road commissioner if we have new roads that are actually private roads. I think it is the job of the applicant to make sure that this is a road that is up to snuff, especially if we've got a couple of waivers around that road.
Sorry, that may not have anything to do with the bond discussion we were having, but it was on the same lines and it came out. Sorry.
I think, are we getting ahead of ourselves, right? And this is just a preliminary plan, so for right now, it's just financial capacity to do this, which ballpark we don't have actual estimates, but there's generally capacity to put that road in.
Mhm.
So we can improve the preliminary plan, but then the final plan is where it would say, we need this third-party engineering assessment of the final road, and we set the final bond amount,
You're right,
right?
you're right.
Although, yeah, especially if we start talking about those waivers and getting them, which I don't think we're going to do because we're not voting on anything, but I think we might want to remember that as we're talking about the waivers, because they do involve the road. Does that make sense? But we're not going to vote on that tonight because it's as we're actually talking about the preliminary plan.
So it seems like we're maybe talking about two different things. So what seemed like there was the one thing to make sure is we said $530,000, is that estimate, do you buy that? So that's where I was thinking you had somebody, third party or whatever, look at those plans and say, yes, or this estimate, this 530, yes, that's reasonable for the construction of this infrastructure. And then there's, when the road is built, before it's signed off on, that we need to prove that it has been built to the appropriate standards. And so we would have somebody testing compaction as the thing's getting built, and pavement depth as the road's getting built. And then at the end of that construction thing, that would be an SW Cole or somebody who does that sort of testing would provide a memo or documentation that says this road was compaction tested every 100 feet and it passed the criteria. We were there on, when it was paved and the pavement depths were X, whatever they need to be, meeting these standards. So I'm thinking there were two things, two different things there that are needed. And we're fine with doing that. So I'm assuming it would be either North Star finds somebody or the town has somebody on the hook for looking at the plans and taking our estimate and saying that looks reasonable. And
Tim, do you have other things you want us thinking about right now? And knowing that we're not quite at a action point?
I've got a list of some things that I jotted down that I've questioning on. These sites are closer together than what we're used to seeing, because of the reduced acreage. I'm wondering if we need to require plume studies on any of these sites.
we actually have them all.
You have them all.
Yep, the nitrate plume studies were in the package as part of the hydrogeologic.
Are they shown on the plans?
Well, they are, there's a graphic that shows the plume study for each of the lots. 8.5 by 11 in the, yeah.
I also noticed, I noticed that the 20-acre lot was not marked as not to be subdivided.
Right, I only put that on the C101 plan, but we will get that on the subdivision plan.
I'm just curious, maybe more than anything, public access to conserve land from the Poland Range Road. Is there going to be any?
Yeah, so we show a trail, I guess maybe on the site plan and the engineering plans, we show a trail. Yeah, a trail connection coming off the Poland Range Road.
And people are going to be allowed to park on the development road?
We have not provided parking spaces. I don't know if people park on the side of the Poland Range Road or it's just for people walking. Some of that I think would be discussion with the Royal River Conservation Trust.
I guess I'd like to hear how that's going to be worked out, how people are going to access from that side if this access is allowed. I think that parking allowed on the somewhere on the development road would be my preference rather than parking on the side of the public road. But I'm throwing it out there.
Unless they decide they want to build a parking area like they did down on Elmwood Road, which would come before the planning board. But I mean, they're here, I'm sure they elaborate.
I'm going to speak to that.
I'm fine with comment on that if the rest of the board is. Motion, approve.
So Chris Franklin, the Royal River Conservation Trust. So public access is in flux right now. I've reached out to neighbors on Poland Range Road to try to gather some input on, what type of use, horseback riding, bikes, dogs, that kind of thing. But also because this is the first use of this conservation subdivision, so this land is generally coming from the town's ordinance, I really would love the input of the planning board as well, and would love to have a time to talk to you about, what type of access we want. Certainly the main parking area is already established over on Brown Road. So, if there's a need, it may be the kind of thing we don't have to decide all at once. It would be great to get as much into the site plan as we can, but over time, we may determine that almost no one's going there or there's a lot of people going there. But anyway, we're open to having those conversations so that it sort of fits the needs of the community. So I guess that's what I would say.
I think it's a good point. I mean, there is the parking on the other side, but public access wasn't, a condition, but it was something we definitely wanted to see. So including some access, whether that's like a punch in, could be like you're saying, Marcia, like the lot over on Elmwood, or just, putting gravel inside the property off the road. Cause I mean, just that section did not have a lot of shoulder, right? Just to keep the road free.
Yeah,
Don't know if that's
yeah.
something you guys would consider doing.
yeah,
Okay.
and I'm not exactly sure. I'd have to look.
You've got no
that
shortage.
area, yeah.
You're at 74%, so you definitely, you can take a tiny little area.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a question for the road commissioner, if we can. Right, cause that's not really a driveway cutout, but it would be like 10 by 50 foot or something feet for 5 or 6 cars. I mean, is that what you're envisioning, Tim? Or more of an off-street parking?
I'm throwing it out there as a question more than anything, how this is gonna be handled.
Yeah, we were planning on providing that trail access and leaving it to Royal River to work out with community folks as to just where it went after that, does it warrant 2 parking spaces, 5, 10, none? So we were not planning on providing anything there other than the trail.
I just want to be a little cautious here because the applicant has made a number of concessions and actually provides a very big parking lot over on the Brown Road, and we don't know the use here. The reality is, when you're up in that area, there's a ton of trails that go into Bradbury, and none of them have parking lots. You bike or you run, and then you go into the mountain or into the park. So I just want to be cautious only because we've got public access and we've got a trail, and I think if I'm not sure how much I feel that we can make demands about that up front, especially because we don't know use yet. And I think what we've got is incredibly generous and very much in keeping with the conservation subdivision. So I hear your point. I actually know that area, and there's a ton of trails there without parking lots. So
I think that's a good point, right? So we don't require that to put something in, but I mean, just to make it an easier option for future use, just have a little bump out in that area for, that's approved as an unrestricted area where parking could go in the future if they want it. So it doesn't have to be an amendment to this plan to change, a tiny little area from conserved to unconserved, but not like actually have to gravel or.
right. Or, and I think I just want to be very cautious because the houses are in this area. So I also don't want to create a nuisance that becomes something we have to manage, or the trust has to manage. So yeah, that's my only kind of thing here. I would love a little bump out because it's a gorgeous place to ski. But if I'm driving there, I can drive to the Brown Road too. So.
But we certainly could add in the agreement so we've got to come up with an agreement with the Royal River Trust and make sure that the wording in there is, that nobody needs to amend a plan, but the wording is in there that not all this, there's, I don't know, you're able to construct a parking lot, or that there's something like that isn't prohibited by wording going in there that we didn't think about what they might want to do in the future.
I'd also like to see in that agreement wording that on the Brown Road, the cars will fit in the parking lot. There won't be any parking on the side of the public road. It's a very dangerous spot right there. So I'd like to see that written into the agreement as well.
And anybody make a comment on this topic, or do I wait until?
I'm in favor of hearing the public in a timely manner.
I'm Michael Baumser. I'm at 206 Poland Range Road. I'm an abutting neighbor. And just to comment on this parking area, that stretch, the straightaway that is across from this proposal, is a completely unmonitored space. We already have people that regularly hang out in the punch-in of Susan Pye's land at night. The litter that happens there a lot of times is because people are hanging out. So the idea of adding spaces there for someone to come and have total freedom to do things without being monitored is, speaking for myself, I would almost rather not have access from that side. And if I wanted public access, I would go around to Brown Road.
I wasn't open to public comment yet in general, but if folks want to pause to hear public comment in general.
Personally, I think we should keep on going and then build them up, if you don't mind.
Sounds good.
What else did I have? We've already talked about a few of the things. One of the things is in the bylaws or somewhere in the homeowners agreement, the number of dwellings that are going to be allowed on each lot. The lots are kind of smaller than what we're used to right now. And the state is about ready to change the rules on us that we have to allow 3 dwellings per lot. So that might be, in an area this tight, it might be a good idea to have something written into the homeowners agreement that they can have restrict the amount of dwellings that they can have.
I don't know.
That is legal.
Yeah, if the point of the state law is to allow people to build, I don't know if it makes sense for us to direct homeowner association agreement to say that there are restrictions on adding additional units based upon things like septic and setback. So you're not going to see a willy-nilly thing. I don't know if the applicant has any thought on that.
Well, we do have a note on the subdivision plan. Further lot divisions are prohibited without prior approval by the Pownell Planning Board. So I don't know if somebody, constructs another principal structure on their lot. It seems like whatever changes happen to this subdivision, the folks need to come back to the planning board.
Listed more ADUs and dwelling units on a single lot, not subdividing it.
Yeah, so, well, I don't know. I mean, you could add principal structure, further lot divisions or principal structures or something that has folks coming back to you. I mean, I think an ADU is just kind of a given that people can have an ADU, right? But another principal structure would be something different because you're approving 9 lots on that road, a certain traffic count. I mean, so typically a subdivision, when you change something in there, i.e. add a house or whatever, you need to go back to the planning board and have that amended. So,
I think that's my point, is that we're basing all this on 9 trips a day, when if we're going to allow 3 dwellings per lot, then it's really not inaccurate.
yeah.
So
So we could add to that note, further lot divisions or addition of principal structures are prohibited without prior approval of the Pownell Planning Board.
I'm not sure that would pass muster in the state statutes.
I don't want to necessarily go down this discussion point unless
May I make a suggestion? So North Star is working with some different entities on kind of education around LD 1899 and subsequent changes to state law. So this is something that I think would be good for me to do some research on and bring with my memo, my revised memo for next meeting, if I may.
Does that sound good to the board?
Yeah, that's perfect because this is in flux and yeah, it's so.
Understand, given all the setbacks, could you even fit additional structures there? Because it seems like they're pretty tight once the primary structure goes in.
It all depends on the layout of the lot. They put the first house in there. And that's all I had, so.
Any other questions, comments?
I have one. I know that in the application, you went through all the performance, the conservation subdivision performance standards, but there are also some that are general to to all subdivisions. And I just want to make note, one of those is unsafe road conditions, which I know you have this, the analysis of the road condition. And also, the other is municipal burden is another performance standard that has to be achieved, which I think we're talking about having maybe a third-party review of the plans for the road. The fire chief should probably also weigh in on, because that would be another, having the road commissioner and the fire chief weigh in on at the criterion of an additional municipal burden, I think would be good.
So do you want to have any discussion on the test well site piece? You know, we not voting on the waivers tonight, but we made comments about that the first three waivers we fit in with discussions we've had at the previous meeting. And I don't think we had any big concerns about those, but the test well site waiver, I want to open that up to discussion if people have thoughts about that.
Can I just go back for a second, because I actually don't remember, I'm sure we did, but I just don't remember the conversation about the grassy shoulders over the gravel. And I'm wondering if that's a great place. I would feel much more confident with that waiver if Chief Peters could just tell us about that. It sounds very reasonable, and I, again, commend the applicant for the comprehensiveness of this. But I think that's a great place to have Chief Peters just weigh in, because I know in a previous thing, that was one of our concerns, was driving on grass. Yeah.
Going back to the test pit discussion, is that something that DEP requires as part of site location?
We don't need site location for a DEP, actually. We need a stormwater permit by rule
Oh, okay.
and a main construction general permit from DEP.
Even, I thought it's not more than 20 acres?
It's, well, the threshold is 15 or more lots on 30 or more acres.
Oh, it's 30 more, okay. Oh, I was mistaken.
Yeah, so we are below that threshold. But they will be looking at the stormwater permit by rule.
That's the most mysterious thing for me, so that's good.
You're also going to need a general construction.
Yes, yeah.
So does a test pit, I'm asking the board, is this a quality or quantity? Does it say in the ordinance? I have to.
Is that, where did we find that?
Is that on?
Q?
I think that's what.
EQ?
But did I find that was that in the checklist? It was in seemed like it was in maybe in a,
I'm actually looking on the checklist right now.
was it? Maybe it wasn't there. seemed like it was in a, oh, yeah. So page 3 of the checklist, means of providing water supply to the proposed subdivision, gallons per minute, and water quality reports from an on-site investigatory test well.
Is that on the checklist?
Yes, yep, on the checklist.
So can you explain why your analysis of these other wells that you feel that addresses what information we get from a test well site on location?
Well, it seems we had 35 samples plus 36 would be Jim's, the well that he drilled, and I guess that we're going to drill one more.
Where was 35 samples at? On property or?
No, there was a map. So these are wells.
Yeah.
So Mark Sensei got on the state well data. So in the hydrogeologic study, there's a page in there that shows all the different wells in the area that he drew from. So I'm thinking because of or according to his analysis, because of the type of fractured bedrock, because of the wells in the area, there's a very good reason to believe that each one of these lots should have a decent well. So, and I guess you could go on to say just because we drill, one well on one of those lots, there's not 9 others. So, is that indicative, that one additional well indicative of, the rest of them? It just seemed to us that there was enough data to say there's a good chance that each one of those lots is going to have will have a decent well. And Jim would make sure there's a decent well before. I mean, nobody's going to be buying a lot with no water.
When you get an occupancy permit, do you have to have a drinking water test to make sure that's potable?
I asked for it, yes.
So we would be assured of the quality when an occupancy is granted. And it seems when you're drilling a well, you're going to drill until you get sufficient capacity.
I think you actually have to get a certain capacity to.
Yes, you have.
Part of your mortgage.
So.
So to me, it seems like, this is my opinion, that you'll be getting that information down the road. You won't need to have it done now.
I think the test is just kind of guaranteeing that it will pass down the road rather than get all this investment done and then find out it won't.
But then the financial risk is on the applicant more than it is the town in some ways for that, right?
Got another question from the audience if you want.
Related to wells and, okay, sure. I motion we get a comment based on the well.
I'm Kate Day, 143 Poland Range Road. I'm in a butter. And the history of my property is that I had a 150-foot well, which yielded 2 quarts a minute. And I frequently ran out of water for years. I currently have 7 horses and 2 people living in my house. The well company has come back and dug deeper. They dug to over 700 feet and still didn't find water. They were there all day. And then they fracked it. They did hydrofracking and got some water for me. So now I have 2 gallons a minute. So I don't think you should waive the test well. Thanks.
we're searching the ordinance and I don't find it within the ordinance. I think that's an issue. I think anything that's on the checklist should be.
I thought that was a little strange, but
Oh, it's not on the website anymore. I couldn't grab it.
I think Natasha has done a search on the computer and maybe others are doing the same, but I think for right now, I don't think we can answer that question. That might be something we'll have to bring up in the next meeting. We'll do some more research, see where this came from.
I mean, yeah. On the safe side, then it makes it seem like it'd be nice to have a test site. It is on the checklist whether or not it's on in the ordinance, so.
I just fear the checklist is not the ordinance. Checklist is not the ordinance. So I mean, I've been just trying to find it, that's all. Just because I actually hear both of these concerns and I think they're very real. And I think the applicant should probably drill a test well just in case, but just trying to find it here.
Well, is the checklist itself an official part of the ordinance? And thus, by being in the checklist, it's part of the ordinance. So we could change the checklist anytime and not have stuff on and have stuff on the checklist that's not in the ordinance, or like.
My opinion would be your checklist is supposed to follow your ordinance. Exactly.
Sounds like, I guess that's a discussion in the future if we want to add that to the ordinance and say we strongly encourage any applicant to do a well test, but if it's not in the ordinance right now, it doesn't sound like we need to give a waiver because it's not in an ordinance.
I don't think we can require it. I don't know if we can suggest it heavily or.
Review criteria number 2 for subdivisions is has sufficient water available for reasonably foreseeable needs of the subdivision.
Yeah.
Doesn't say anything about test, but it just.
But yeah, well, I guess that then the board could decide that in order to meet that criteria of having enough information to decide that the site will have enough water, that we could say that piece of itself could be justification for the board saying that we do want to see a test site in order to have enough information if we don't think there is enough information, right?
I mean, when I looked at the well study, I mean, there's a wide range of depths and capacities. It's pretty interesting. So I would agree that you could be on one site and not have sufficient water. And I think what we just heard attests to that.
so doesn't that, I mean, we had the hydrologic study done, which talks about groundwater recharge. I mean, so that site's gonna have way more than enough water. It's just a matter of you drilling your well in a location to access it. So I guess I don't know, does one well hole, prove that more so than the study that says, you've got 75,000 gallons recharging and you're going to be pulling out 3,500. So you've got plenty of water on that site. It's just, getting there. And then we have, our Brown Road, a well that was, had way more than ample supply. And we do know, that that's current and that's good because Jim, is the one that drilled that recently.
I mean, I guess I'm willing to say that, we have, information for 35 wells plus hydrological study is maybe enough information to appease that idea that's in the ordinance about what water is. But I also leave it open for this and future applications that have the concern about water could justify us requiring now or in the future that there be a test well site put in order to appease that requirement. So I'm not necessarily saying we need to do it for this site. But I think in the future also it'd be nice if the ordinance more clearly spelled out exactly what we're looking for, if it is a requirement or not. So I guess it sounds like it's still that you don't need a waiver.
And just to say one more thing, at the public hearing, we will get input on many of these criteria, and we can make a final decision on the necessity after that point as to whether we feel it will pass this criterion.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Can we just very specifically go over the timeline in front of us, just so, is that next public hearing going to be at our regular scheduled meeting? If we have no more, is that how that would work?
So based on the ordinance, saying that the preliminary plan, which is the stage we're at, approval needs to be made at a public hearing. So I guess we would we talked about this briefly earlier, but maybe get some input from the applicant if they would be prepared for a public hearing at the next meeting of the planning board or a subsequent meeting. And then at that time, there would be, give me just a moment, I'm just getting to that section. Review, the board could make a motion that the application is complete, and then it would also need to discuss under 906, let's see here. A is the procedures. So, and Tim raised this, 906A3 would also, the board would need to state the conditions of the approval. So with respect to, I'll just read them. The specific, number one is the specific changes which it will require for the final plan. 2, the character and extent of the required improvements for which waivers may have been requested, and which is in its opinion may be waived without jeopardy to the public health, safety, and general welfare. And then 3, the amount of improvement of the amount of all bonds, therefore, which it will require a prerequisite to the approval of the final subdivision plan. So I think also to Tim's point earlier is with regard to those 2 bonds that were discussed this evening, the road bond, of which we do have that input from the road commissioner, but it seems like there's some other details to clarify, and that there will be a meeting. And then I think it would be good to have staff being CEO and maybe North Star communicating with the applicant in terms of the performance guarantee amount based on that language that we just read in 906. A. So I think a little bit, Mercedes, to your point, is planning ahead to if it makes sense for the applicant as well to be able to be prepared for that preliminary plan public hearing, and if that would be July 15th or potentially the meeting in August.
So I'd like to open it up to public comment, thank them for their patience before we close out this item.
Bill Schmidt, 19 Pine Grove Road. Peter, could you point out the location of the under drain on the drainage diagram, please?
Yeah.
There's 300 feet and it goes from the Poland Range Road to probably just to the right of the first lot on the right.
Yeah, let me see here. Can I, is there a way to make this a little larger or actually?
Click on.
Oh. Oh. Well,
This is under the road. Now, is that under the road or is it under the shoulder of the road?
well, right, so on the, it's, or actually, if you go to the section diagram on page C301, and actually, maybe I can get there. We've got our conduits, we've got our underground electric, right here for 4-inch type B under drain. So it's right under the edge of the, under the edge of the road.
Okay, and that's a 4-inch under drain.
Yeah, 4-inch type B under drain.
Was that like 3 to 4 feet underground to prevent it from freezing or something? I assume, or insulated probably.
Yeah, no, it's not insulated. But it's just below, see, it's just below the, depth C plan, but it's just below, it's below the gravel base because you're draining that whole gravel, you're draining that gravel base. It's where, because of the elevations of being kind of flat, that the base, we're just nervous the base isn't going to drain on its own. So it's providing that.
Yeah, I was
That
just wondering,
outlet
because
for that.
in the maintenance plan, I think it says HOA is responsible for making sure that doesn't clog.
Yeah,
If it does clog, then the water goes to the Poland Range Road, right? So they do have to be able to have access to that.
thank you. Yes.
Okay, right. Sounds good. Thank you. And to the planning board, during the previous meeting with the planning board, several residents voiced concerns about the questionable ability of the Poland Range Road to support additional traffic. The select board chair also noted the historical condition of the road base. You asked the previous road commissioner to contact Maine DOT to see if they would conduct an assessment of the condition of the road. The road commissioner reported that the state cannot currently conduct an assessment. If the planning board doesn't have that answer, that is why the planning board can request an independent study. Lacking the information that the planning board has requested, the planning board should request that the town administrator post an RFP, request for proposal for a firm to conduct an official road condition assessment. From Shane Brady's application, there are 4 different contractors that could actually help you with that. So how do we get to yes? The planning board can ignore the safety issues for drivers of bikes and pedestrians. The planning board can ignore the condition of the road and let it be someone else's problem. Or the planning board can ask the tough questions. Can a fire truck pull over anywhere on the side of the road in spring and not sink into the mud? I think even Jim has probably pulled over beside his road right in front of that development. And even with a 4-wheel drive, don't pull over. Definitely don't pull over with a fire truck. So I pulled a car, I think I mentioned before, I pulled a vehicle out of there before. And so the road's in sad shape during the certain times of year. Can 2 vehicles safely pass in spring and winter in the sections between the Libby Road and Route 9? The section in front of the proposed subdivision and the section between Cape Days and Judy Heights, they all get narrowed during the winter. This is, and again, it has been suggested that the connection of the Poland Range Road is not the developer's problem. However, it is the problem for everyone that uses the road, including the developer and the town. As a planning board, it would be the planning board's task to suggest that the town start a process to improve the roads so that safety issues can be addressed and that development can take place on these old beat up roads. The base, as I mentioned before, and other people have too, it's clay. There's no, and then you've got some gravel. There's no cloth at all to keep water from coming up. Then you've got gravel, a mixture of gravel and sand. And a lot of that sand has actually gone down drain and turned the brooks into swamps now because the sand doesn't stay on the road. It keeps washing out. We should not be encouraging development on roads that have a clay base, no fabric, and a mixture of gravel and sand on top. The planning board should delay any further approvals until a plan for improving the roads are in place. That process starts with an independent assessment. This next section is on regarding the traffic assessment. As our town planner pointed out in a previous planning board meeting, a traffic impact assessment is not a safety assessment. This assessment that we see here reported on a number of crashes, but it seemed to trivialize the high crash locations. It noted 2 of them at the intersection of the Poland Range Road where it meets the Durham Road by saying that the crashes were due to driver distraction or excessive speed. Aren't all crashes related to something like that? So it's not to be trivialized. Not being a safety assessment, this assessment did not address any safety issues from the road narrowing due to mud or road narrowing due to snow. They took it in May, and it's relatively dry right now. It's really fine. You could pull over almost anywhere right now. But if they came back in the spring when it's wet or in the winter, it's a different road. There are 2 questions that the planning board should ask the town attorney. If the planning board accepts an incomplete assessment of the safety issues on the Poland Range Road, is the planning board or town liable for any accidents? If the planning board does not request an assessment of the condition of the Poland Range Road, is the planning board or town liable for any accidents or road damage due to the inability to maintain the road due to the additional traffic and construction traffic? It is going to be a mess. We can either accept it, it's okay. It will be a mess, as Tim has pointed out. It's going to be a mess. I mean, the first excavator that pulls up there to start the construction of the road, you ought to put a hunter's camera out there, and you're going to watch it sink right out of sight as it pulls over to the left if it's in spring. But something to think about.
Any other public comment?
Michael Bomser, 206 Poland Range Road. I appreciated being able to look at such a comprehensive plan that they submitted. But I had a couple comments also about the traffic report. One of them was just that the information there, the statistics seem to be quite dated. On the first paragraph, they claimed that they got the data from the 2014 annual report, which I hope is a typo. Maybe they meant 2024 annual report. But even still, the data only comes up to 2022. And I believe that that's probably insufficient. And I think the spirit of what the community had been discussing in past meetings was that there would be a real-time traffic count using portable traffic counters or something like that so that we could get current statistics and that the board would be able to make accurate decisions around that. Since the pandemic, the commuter patterns have changed. I know regularly that our road shows up on Google Maps as the shortest route through from New Gloucester, Durham, for people trying to get to Freeport and even Brunswick and Topsom. So people are being led, if they've never been in the area, there's a lot of extra traffic passing through there just because they're following their phones trying to get to 136. So I believe that in order to really analyze it, that we need a real-time test. Yeah. Thank you.
Peter, what are you thinking? Are you thinking July or August? Like like in terms of timing here?
I'm thinking, July for this next round.
I understand you're gonna meet with the road commissioner,
Yes.
and so 2 weeks to turn something around based on his advisement and fire chief to quickly have his input, so I guess that's probably gonna be the determination whether you meet with them on that. Make the determination.
Yeah, so, well, maybe I'll have to reach out, kind of take stock of everything that we've gone over, what we have to do, when we can actually get together with folks, and then get back to you whether July is actually feasible or not.
And what's the timing on our responsibility to post a public hearing? So I just want to make sure we're lining all of that up
I mean,
because,
if you submitted things in whatever that date is in 2 weeks, I'd have to put out the public
Oh.
notice and send letters to abutters. That would have to happen right away after that. I mean, it can be, and what's the timeline?
For
To be-
public hearing,
Yeah,
Yeah.
at least
10 days, I think.
10 days, yeah. I mean, it would be good if we can keep going. I'll do everything on my end to
Okay.
keep it going.
Okay. Okay, well, let us kind of regroup and get back in touch and see what we can get set up and kind of the to-do list and.
So I think we can get a memo from the fire chief on his take on the development road. We are currently, I'm looking at a selectman, we have an Acton road commissioner at the time. Okay, so, we're in between at the moment, so I will ask for input from the Acton road commissioner.
calendar just worries me a little bit. We've got 2 3-day weekends coming up and a lot of vacation time on staff. So I just want to be realistic and make sure that we have a really clear list of what we would also be expecting at that actual formal submission. Just so that we
You're right.
respect everybody's time and make sure that we've got all our.
August is not a great time for a
No.
public hearing.
Natasha, do you think you can have enough information to generate a list of what's needed before the public hearing?
Yes, based on this meeting.
Yes.
Trying to review the HOA. Seems premature to me to do that.
Is it just a condition though? It's a condition for the future, not that they have to have it written now, right?
I think they have to file it.
Wait to file it now.
It has to be filed.
I can see that for the final, but we're at preliminary at this point.
Yeah, and the ordinance, it only says it has to be the draft is in the preliminary plan. So I'm just trying to make sure we get.
Under 908, the performance standards for conservation subdivision on PDF page 129, it does say under D, legal review, prior to final approval by planning board, the applicant shall submit for review by the town attorney. So I would presume that means final plat, final approval. But to Tim's point, I can certainly generate a list and email it over to you tomorrow. We can kind of make sure we've got everything on it, and then we'd be able to disseminate it to Peter.
Yep, that'd be great.
Did we provide an answer to the question about how we measure road length? So that they can have the number accurate?
So the question was, can you refresh my memory? Where does it start?
Yeah, where does it start? I mean, we reviewed, so we know you go all around the cul-de-sac. So we got that. And then, right, where do you start? On the stationing, you'll see the engineering stationing starts out at the center of the Poland Range Road. And I think the last station going around the cul-de-sac is 1200. But if you cut off if you just start at the property line, then you're at the 1,875 or whatever I came up with. But if you can tell me exactly where we start, I can get an exact measurement on that.
That's a question I'm gonna have to research.
Okay?
Add it to the to-do list. Right, are we ready to move on to the next portion of the agenda? All right, we close this discussion and move on to Harrison Hudson Road.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Now, can I just,
Copy the notes.
oh, thank you. Can I just pull this out? Am I gonna mess something up here by not shutting something down?
Oh, yeah. Is that your thumb drive?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, we can take that out. There
Now,
you go.
could I do some, next time, should I send this over in advance so they can load
The-
it on something?
Yeah, it's usually good. I mean, it worked, but it's usually good to have it emailed ahead of time.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
It doesn't hurt to bring a thumbnail as backup.
We were looking for a full
Yeah, more in here, so they did. Nobody's come and got them.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, I remember this.
Everybody usually electronics.
This is the important part of it. Yeah, there you go.
You want to start with the presentation?
Yes, that sounds good.
Yeah, sure. Michelle Harrison, Auburn Pownell Road in Durham. So, in front of you is just an amended subdivision. It's the Bigelow subdivision from like 1998, I believe. And what we're asking for is we have 67 feet of road frontage on Hodston Road. And we're asking to put in a 600-foot road to have the frontage to build one single family residence in the first section here. When we met in like January or February, I forget which month, and I didn't submit an application at that time, so there was a little confusion there. I was trying to get direction. And so there's 91 acres here, and we're only, at that time, we talked about the wetland study, not doing the full 91 acres because we're trying to just get one lot. So Mark Sensi did the wetland study. That should be in your packet as well. Trying to think what else I can tell you. The road will meet road standards. I haven't had that design will be done by Wayne Woods. It's not complete yet because I wanted to see what other feedback we needed to get from you folks. We do have a hammerhead in here because, I don't know, I'm a little confused on that because just looking at the conservation subdivision we just went through, they have a cul-de-sac. I think somewhere along the process, I was told that we needed to change to a hammerhead. So just for future clarification, is Pommel a hammerhead or cul-de-sac? Or does it vary by minor versus conservation subdivisions?
So in the minor subdivision, it describes a turnaround like you have there.
Okay.
The,
Is hammerhead not the right terminology? Sorry, that's what Wyndham calls them, hammerheads. I don't know where that comes from.
get a backup turnaround.
Okay, got it. Okay, got it. Turnaround. So can I, I mean, it's fine. I can have a turnaround, but can I have a cul-de-sac or no?
The wording in the ordinance is it follows the appendices, and the only thing in the appendices is a turnaround.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So maybe something to think about for your conservation subdivision then. Okay, got it. Oh. Got it. Okay, got it. Thank you. So I'm gonna have a turnaround and be happy with that. Wetland study's been done and North Star Planning has given their direction of what we're missing. So I'm more here tonight to see what additional items are needed. And then we'll come back in July. Or answer any questions.
If an applicant wanted to do a cul-de-sac, would they put it in a waiver request for a cul-de-sac?
I would, going by what's in the ordinance, I think they would have to put in a waiver request.
Yeah, so it's not saying it's impossible, but it's not normal and would need to be approved.
Got it. I can live with it. I was just more curious. I like the cul-de-sac look better personally than our friends.
I want to refresh, why are we doing 600 instead of just 300?
Because that's how far I want to go. And so the ordinance allows the 600. And if you look at it here, you need it. Because this property here goes that far, so I don't get any of that frontage. And this is the proposed house site, so I'll come off the back here. So I actually need this frontage on this side of the road to get the 300 to have that proposed site.
But so you're saying this is too narrow? I think I'm kind
Yeah,
of following
so-
the prior discussion, right? So that you have to go farther.
Yep, so there's 160 feet. Yeah, 160 something feet that I can't use, and then you can't use this frontage because that's associated with that lot. So I actually need all of it.
We don't need just 460? I mean, because you're still gonna do a driveway, right? So you don't necessarily need, this doesn't have to be road all the way back.
Yeah, I don't mind, and I can't, and I think if I remember correctly too, you can't count any of this in the turnaround anymore.
Oh, yeah.
So there was something brought to our attention last time about that. So I actually think I'm pretty tight on needing it. Well, that's what, I can have Wayne Woods come to the next meeting, but that from the feedback I got from you guys before and when he drew it, he thought I needed most of it.
So you're basically saying your net gain from this is only 300 feet on one side, so only one house could ever be put back in. This can't be further subdivided to have two houses off a 600-foot road.
Not right now. Nope.
One lot.
One lot.
One lot.
It,
Just summarize that conversation. I couldn't hear all of it.
Well, just that by going to 600 feet, you're not getting frontage to have a future subdivision for another house or lot back here. This is getting 300 feet of frontage only for one house. It's a single lot now. It's only going to be a single lot.
it's extreme overkill that we did the wetland study and that I have to design a road. And that's why I was here in January or February to discuss the stream overkill. But our backlot ordinance, the way it's written today, does not allow for this to happen. So this is the only direction legally I could go.
Yeah.
There's been many more since then, so yes. There was recommendations to like all the back common land. I'm happy to add that. There's a test pit was done. For soils, that's kind of a miss on my part because I figured if this goes through, when I do the building permit, I will just, you need it for a septic design. So I kind of missed that, but we can have the test pit added to the plan, not a problem. And there was something else that North Star brought up as well. I am asking for one waiver. Because it is only a single lot, I'm hoping that you guys could consider reducing the road width from 20 feet to 16. That has happened before with other subdivisions in town. But if I can't, I can't, but I am asking for that waiver. I just feel like it's less impact. I don't really love the road anyhow. And then if you look at, I also have a DEP. Because of calling this a subdivision, I have to have a DEP NERPA permit because there's a road runoff potential stream. So that requires normally a 75-foot setback, but they usually grant waivers to 25 feet. You don't really see it. It really runs the jagged property line, like where you see the 161 feet. It's on the other side of that. So, and on the other side of that? Yeah, it's, in the old days, it was called, well, anyhow, we're gonna call it a stream and it's a loose stream. And the NERPA permit is in process and nobody foresees any problems with that. So it is only the first 161 feet and then it doesn't matter, we're more than far enough away from it. In a normal single lot, that impact wouldn't even be in a discussion.
So without that in hand, we would, if we approve this or when we approve this, this would be a condition of approval if it doesn't come back in time.
And I'm optimistic, hopeful that I could actually like get an approval maybe by July's meeting, with whatever you feel like I'm missing, because this has been going on for about a year.
So why don't we go through what Natasha has given us for a memo?
Yep.
Okay.
So on page 2 of the memo, I had just said that I suggested the board clarify some of the items that seemed inconsistent or just a little bit confusing in what was provided. There's a number of plans that were provided and they didn't necessarily match up with each other or the acreage that was noted on the application itself. And then, so those are speaking to the proposed private way, and then there's the concept plan. And then on the subdivision application form, it had said 70 acres. So I think that should all be the same. And then just to provide some clarity about the common land, because there was mention of that, a statement made on the application. And so that would be helpful to get some clarity even just now. And then it sounds like you noted the, my other bullet about what Mark Sensi provided. So I think that is okay. So that's what I would suggest, that we just maybe clarify now, and then we can provide you some guidance for the next meeting.
So the plan that you have in hand, the other one was not an official application. And this was officially surveyed, all of the property. And you can see all of Wayne Wood's references, but I will go back to him because I said, Wayne, you usually take land away from me. You don't give me land back. So in Teradine's plan that you looked at that showed the 72 acres was not surveyed. So that was a poor assumption based on information from previous homeowners.
And that makes sense. We just would want to.
We'll clarify that.
Have that clarified. And then just what was handwritten on the application form didn't match either of the acreages, just because it was 7D.
Yep.
So I would just suggest that we have that all mirror each other.
Okay, can do that. No problem. I can do another one. And then what was your second one? The land.
So there was a comment on page 7 of 9 of the,
Oh, the 50 acres
Subdivision.
not to be developed yet.
yeah, the 50 not to be developed. So just, I wasn't, it's not clear from that if that is common land, like dedicated open space, or what do you mean by the common land?
So I don't, this isn't a conservation subdivision in my mind. It's just a single lot request. And we're gonna leave it all as open space. And quite frankly, anybody who walked it, it's not anything that could ever be built on anyhow. It's pretty, yeah, it's rough terrain. So we may put it in tree growth at some point in time. There is a forester looking at it, so that's a potential, but a lot of it's just gonna be farmed. There's some different, plantings going on right now, so.
And then if I may, on page 1 of my memo, I did note that you mentioned one waiver, but I just want to have clarity and maybe some conversation from the board about, there was a request for, seemingly a waiver request from providing the fire protection due to limited lot. Can this be waived? So
I thought, so I didn't submit that as a waiver request, because I didn't think it was required in a minor subdivision.
That was on the application.
Oh, was that on the first application though? Because this is second one. So then I can just update that because, okay, I think, Tim, I think you're the one that maybe told me that that's not a requirement. Yeah, so.
I think just having the application be consistent with what you're asking for.
Yep, that's
be
fine.
Perfect.
And in regards to that, I think, the conservation land, take that comment out of there.
The conservation land?
Common land.
Oh, okay. Yep, no, I can remove that. That was more just to let everybody know what 50 more acres just doing nothing out there.
Would it be, at what point should we have Chief Peters weigh in? Because the reduction in the road width would be something he'd want to,
Get a memo from him.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not opposed to making the road narrower if Chief Peters and the road commissioner approve it. Is my thinking.
The road commissioner have to weigh in on a private road?
I don't know. If he doesn't, it's just Chief Peters, that's fine with me. Yeah, I don't know. Tim, does the road commissioner need to weigh in on a private road?
A road commissioner is involved with the permitting process for a private road, so I would say wouldn't hurt. So I'll ask.
Any questions, concerns, comments?
Is there anything else that we feel that they need to bring? Anything further?
I don't
You
think,
don't have to. You can if you want.
I would lean towards, we don't need to do a site walk.
A lot of pumpkins
Do
planted.
we need to say like, public hearing for this potentially next meeting? Do we need it?
Subdivision item.
I'm pulling that up right now.
Okay.
If you need one.
Yeah, if we don't need one, let's not do it. But if we're doing one anyway for. Is there any public comment on this project? All right, just gotta put it out there while we're looking this up.
Come on, Bill, you gotta come up with something.
Well, we appreciate the applicant's patience in this process.
Doesn't mention anything. Public hearing.
I don't think we did one for Layton just a couple months ago, right? Is that similar? We didn't do a public hearing or anything. Yeah, because that was a similar thing.
All right, sweet.
I've got my marching orders then. Thank you.
We need a memo?
Do I need a memo? Sure. I'll bring you tomorrow. Discrepancy, fix the discrepancy. Yeah. And we'll get road design.
Update it?
You tell me, I mean, I'll fix the one that I did and resubmit it. It's just the discrepancies, or do I do a new one? I don't know.
I don't know if it makes a difference if brings in a new one or updates the old one.
Just make sure we have.
Perfect. I'll fix the discrepancies and bring in another one. And then in July, we'll have the road, the road design. And then we should have the NERPA permit. So hopefully we should be able to get to the final stage. Thank you.
I think that before we close, I think that's the only thing I would want is a memo from Chief Peters on that, because I don't think, I wouldn't feel comfortable voting on that waiver without that.
Absolutely. All right. Close that agenda item. We can move on to other business with the CEO update.
So, been in a lot of conversations with, Mr. Victory on the Woodman subdivision. He's been waiting all this time to have his wetlands delineated. I actually met with him with the DOP on his site, DEP. And confirmed that he did need them to be delineated. So he's finally found somebody and they were done yesterday. So he should be in. He would like to be on the July agenda if possible, but I told him we'll have to put you on the list.
Right.
Yes.
We know it's definitely.
Yep. Yep.
Baby steps. Consider it a priority whoever gets their application, their stuff there first.
You know, you go by age, probably he's the oldest.
But I mean,
what happens when he gets the.
these ones don't, I mean, they may not, we've talked both of these, I mean, these ones through quite extensively. So it might, even though we might be able to go through some of these relatively quickly, I guess, so.
We'll see what he brings.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see how much information we have to digest.
So Isabel will provide necessary training for be in compliance with LD 1829. She's offered to do that in September. I've suggested that maybe we wait until the fall. So, and I'm also suggesting that if we are still busy, that we have a special meeting on this as well. And she's also got something prepared to go through how our ordinances will need to change to match the LD. Brought up Victory. I think we need to continually work on ordinance review, starting in early fall. I think that just trying to work with this through the Stetson Farm subdivision, we've found some things that need to be tweaked. I don't want that to get behind us because it's the holidays or whatever, and then all of a sudden when it's time for town meeting, then we gotta hurry through it. So I think maybe the best thing to do is to have some workshop meetings throughout the fall, early fall, start them in early fall and go that route. So something has come up, a couple of different applications have come up that brought to my attention, which I didn't really realize before, and I don't know if you did or not, but in a subdivision, in a revised subdivision, if you have a previous subdivision of 4 lots, then the next lot takes it into a conservation subdivision. So that means that you'd have to preserve 60% of the property. And I use my own property for an example. I have 7.5 acres. I'm part of a 4-lot subdivision. I wouldn't be able to subdivide.
Well, is that if you're subdividing within 5 years, or does that include beyond 5 years?
The 5 years doesn't really have anything to do with it because if
Okay.
a previous subdivision, it always gets amended.
Yeah.
So it goes back to the beginning, whenever you come with another plan. So 5 years is basically if you had a raw piece of property that's never been through subdivision, then you can split off a lot every 5 years.
Yeah.
So but once you subdivide, you've always got to come back and revise that subdivision. No matter how many lots you split.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's interesting. So you're saying if someone was a minor subdivision and they did 4 lots and then they wanted to subdivide again, then they'd become a major conservation subdivision. Potentially, they wouldn't even be able to subdivide because they hadn't preserved enough land already.
Either they hadn't preserved enough or they didn't, the lot that they purchased didn't have enough. Or,
Yeah.
My lot, for an example, I have 300 feet on one road, and I have 460 feet on another road, and I have 7.5 acres.
Yeah.
But if you take the minimum size lot size out to retain from my original lot, and if I wanted another lot size of the 2.5 acres, then I don't have 60% to put in conservation. You need 11 acres in order to do that and keep 2.
Yeah.
I mean, you could reduce the size of one of the lots. I don't know if you could reduce the size of both of the lots and then have land to conserve, but when you're putting that in conservation, it's a very small piece of property you're putting into conservation. And is it good for anything? I think there needs to be something built in for, I don't know if you want to call it a waiver system or something like that for things like this. But, if you're part of a minor subdivision and you have 20 acres or 40 acres, then you could use the conservation subdivision, but the smaller lots really can't.
But
Right,
Yeah,
they do that to the other properties in that subdivision. You couldn't do that.
well, I guess the question is that a feature or a bug in some ways? Like, people want to preserve the rural character of the town. In some ways, this is preventing certain amount of growth because. So, I mean, I think it's worth discussing, definitely, is that a deliberate limit on growth, or do we want to, create some type of process when those situations arises that, you're conserving a percentage of the new land as opposed to the old land? I don't know.
So one of the examples of how this came up is somebody that lives in town, grew up in town, a good friend of the family's wanted to give him a piece of land. But, he's not willing to go through conservation subdivision to
Yeah.
do that. Because he's gonna have to give up a big chunk of his land in order to do that.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So, and there are implications on, so. Right. So I think when, we're reviewing the ordinances, I think that's a good, just something that just came up that I think we have to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Future. That's all I got. Yes, this actually affects what he wanted to do as well. So and he does have enough property that he could easily use the conservation subdivision, but he chooses not to at this time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, then, yeah, you're like, he was the first one to ask, so then he gets to do it, but then like, what about me? I bought this so.
And then, yeah, so it is, it's very, like, I feel for that person. And I'm like, oh yeah, we should have a middle ground, but then you actually take that to scale.
So one thing that I thought of is that in the backlot ordinances, it puts a timeline on there. It said any lot created after, or any subdivision after this creation of this ordinance doesn't qualify, or so there could be something in that lines too. So this wasn't thought of before. We didn't have this before, so.
Yeah.
People were subdividing before. This wasn't in their mind.
Well, yeah. Yeah. Or you say, yeah, do you do a backlot thing, or do you say if it was subdivided 20 years ago, or, as a minor subdivision, then that, or 50 years ago, or something like that, and yeah.
Was that the intent?
Is there a reset?
Was their intent to keep subdividing and subdividing and subdividing? If you create a subdivision?
Well, going forward, we could do something like if it's 10 acres or more, or 11 acres or more, then you have to use the conservation subdivision. If it's less than that, then you don't have to. You can use the minor for that. Or just, there are some things we can talk about in the future to try to work this out. And that's all I have.
All right.
Monday.
We've got a number of ordinance stuff.
Yep.
Or hopefully they'll go in batch, or do they go one by one?
They're going by section,
By section.
so.
This is a lot.
It's gonna take.
Is someone from the planning board supposed to talk about?
I would appreciate it if members.
I mean,
Answer questions that come.
What do we want? Do we want to assign a lead person to talk about it? And North Star is gonna be there, you're gonna be there, or?
North Star hasn't been invited.
No.
I mean, it was more Isabel that worked on these.
Isabel will be there. Okay, yeah, okay.
My experiences with the town meetings is you never know. I remember my first town meeting, we spent, probably 2 minutes on a $600,000 budget, and then we argued for half an hour over $500 for the cemetery.
Yep.
So,
Jeez.
never know.
And one of the things that we put forward was take it off because of the public hearings. Which we do have to grapple with in the future. The no roads within, yeah. Which
You still need to solve the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, any participation, anybody that wants to show up, please do.
Next meeting, I have report, usual, really sure. Sounds like Harrison. That's a maybe public hearing. We don't know if they'll have it, and then Woodman.
Mhm.
And it's at the discretion of the chair, whichever chair it is,
Mhm.
to decide the agenda's too full. It seems like Freeport should be pretty short. Maybe,
Should be.
yeah. Harrison should be short, she doesn't,
Mhm.
doesn't be very long.
Stetson should be very long. Especially in a public hearing, because you're gonna have to let all the public speak too, so.
Public hearing would happen first.
So one thing you could do is think about a special meeting for one of them. Do one of them in a special meeting 2 weeks later or a week before, or, you know, whenever we can arrange it to happen.
Well, I mean, we were worried about this meeting going long and
It's almost 9.
I know, but I mean, went through it, some of the stuff quicker than I thought we would, so. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
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 Do we have a quorum? Just because it's July.
I think I'm free.
See, I don't know how, I mean, everybody wants to be, and everybody's in a hurry.
Mhm. They don't want to let the summer slip by.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know how to make a decision if they all come in. What should be on the agenda. I mean, how do you fairly, is it first, whoever gets their stuff in first? For the July meeting? Like settling the time.
I think the other question is, are we obligated to, if they get their material in and on time, are we obligated to hear them at the next meeting?
Meeting. I know Todd doesn't feel.
Mhm.
Well, boundary. Use a boundary.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the,
I don't know how to feel.
uh,
I think
It-
it's up in the chair.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's different ways to do it. You know, we talked about cutting people off at a specific time, whether or not we reached a decision. And then they at least were heard and got some of the answers they needed, even if they didn't get all of them. Or yeah, do you schedule a second meeting in the month to finish up an agenda, or do you just say to one of the applicants, we don't have time for you on this one, you're gonna have to wait till August?
I think that should be your choice. I mean, do you want to work late into the evening or night? Or do you want to dedicate another night to hear some of this? So, but I don't think if an applicant gets the material in on time, I feel that we're obligated to, if it goes by the ordinance, then we should be hearing them.
Well, I think Todd is right that we are a volunteer board, and like we're giving everybody a fair shot, but we don't have to stay till midnight. We can end the meeting early, or we can say we don't have time on the agenda for you. Sorry, we have too many things and you got to wait till the next month. I'm more inclined to let's try to figure out a way that, yeah, we can get applicants through quickly, but I also understand Todd's perspective that, you know, we can only do so much and we're a volunteer board, so.
Rather stay late for people who would prefer to fit in a second meeting.
So much time. What if we start a little earlier? I mean,
Yeah.
this is draining. This is 4 hours.
I think that is a concern, like each of these have waivers, that's when we have to be right, and everything we have to be right, longer meeting goes, more complexity. I just wanna make sure we give everybody also our attention and our full input.
Yeah.
And I think that's harder. And yes, we have sidewalk today, so that's whatever, but I just wanna make sure we also can give everybody attention they deserve. And maybe it's moved, because maybe it's.
And the other thing to add to that is I feel that in a public hearing, you can ask people to maybe try to limit their talk. to
Yeah.
5 minutes and not.
Oh, you can say 2 minutes. You can say 2 minutes, but
Let everybody be heard.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
important.
yeah.
What if we just do a 5 o'clock start time?
If
Next one.
it's through.
Yeah, I guess you can make that call by right before the 2-week window, right? And so just if we could start at 5 and, I mean, the whole meeting is a public hearing, or just we start with a public hearing?
I think we start with a public hearing, because then we close it.
So we just, we put 30 minutes. It might take longer, but then that way we can immediately roll into the next thing. We don't have to like sit there and wait till 6 o'clock. Something like that.
So in other words, if there's a public hearing, we start at 5.
Well, I think, or either way, just depending on the number of, we've got more than 3 things to look at, including a public hearing. I think we could start at 5:30. Get a little less time and still kind of have a 9 o'clock cutoff.
Does this happen in other towns?
Yes, sometimes a special meeting is added or they meet earlier for this reason. But just to note, I agree with Tim that if an applicant adheres to the deadline and submits something, it should be on the agenda. Then the question comes to play of if there's limitations kind of time-wise made by the board, which I also think is warranted for the reasons that you said, but just being fair and always kind of operating in that vein. So saying, we'll start special time at 5. We won't, discussions will end at 9. And as long as you're consistent with that, I think that's what's important.
I agree. I think just the one thing is not necessarily giving us 4 hours, but inviting too many people and then someone's just been sitting here for 4 hours. We don't get to them. That's kind of shitty, right? For that person. If we have like 4 on the agenda, we get through 3 and it's 9 o'clock, then they just sat here wasted.
If that were to happen, you could have a policy that in 2 weeks you'll hold another meeting and they'll be heard. Put them on the agenda.
We could also just say, like, you're gonna stop discussion at 8:30 on whatever the previous item and give them an hour at the end. And you might not be able to finish either one of them, but they at least got to start the process.
Yeah.
To not continue with steps. Means, otherwise, we start with then public hearing steps and then say 3. And instead people sit there all. So the
Yeah, yeah.
the order of events is.
Yeah.
But is it fair that? Steps and then 8, 3, 4, and then everybody else waits.
Whether it's fair, it makes sense to, if we're gonna have a public hearing for somebody, to actually try to finish the job on them.
I almost would think that start with the shorter agendas first. weekend and all along, maybe we cover, maybe require a public hearing. We can post, stop the discussion, go, send it on to, public hearing. That makes sense or not?
We have to post.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's almost 9, so I don't know if we're gonna solve this tonight.
Nope, nope.
Let's think on it. One other thing that I just thought of, that it is July, our next meeting, so you'll be voting new officers. You'll have to, and one thing in Pownell's, what's that? Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll have to do it at the beginning of the meeting. So in Pownell's bylaws, there is no co-chair. So there's chair and vice chair. So we'll have to decide who is who on that, but,
So we've been,
yep.
Can I make a suggestion?
yeah,
My own opinion?
Yeah.
Do your 3 first, your 3 shorter one first, donate your time to Stetson. Stetson's gonna have a public comment period. You want the public to show up. To schedule it at 5 o'clock is kind of poopy for those people who have to get out of work. No offense.
yeah, well, I was thinking maybe 5:30 instead of 5, then gives people a little bit more time, but yeah.
You might have, start at 5, you might end up in the middle of the discussion.
But then you're not giving your time. You're not devoting your 100% attention to that one item. You know that this is coming up in the next half hour and we gotta hurry up and get through this.
Yeah, you can make the public hearing 6 o'clock and then whatever's before it takes longer and it drifts. Like we don't have to drop dead at 6 o'clock. It's just people need to get here by 6. And then if it happens at 6:30, so be it. There's no good solution here, but maybe, we just like conceptually say like, if everyone's available, we have 4 hours blocked out. We could do 5 to 9 in some combination if we have that many come in. And if not, if it's only 3, we just do the usual 6 to 9.
It's not a good situation either way.
Nope. All right, we do have any communications? Okay, great. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.